أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيد الخلق والمرسلين. My dear brothers and sisters, welcome to another evening of the short talks of Ramadan. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept from us our fasting. We continue our theme of the Muslim family. And today I want to share with you the story of a father and a son. And I think that the story is quite instructive, and I think it's something that all of us fathers would love to see our sons achieve that kind of piety and that kind of mannerism and behavior. This is the story of one of the great leaders of Islam, Omar ibn Abdelaziz, radiyallahu anhu. Omar ibn Abdelaziz, he assumed the Khilafah in the Umayyad period after his uncle Sulaiman ibn Abdul Malik died. After Sulaiman died, he had appointed Omar ibn Abdelaziz, his nephew, to become the Khalifa. And everyone was ecstatic and happy because Omar ibn Abdelaziz was known for being just and for being kind and for being humble and for being somebody who would lead with integrity. The problem was that before Umar ibn Abdelaziz assumed the leadership role in the Muslim nation, there were some things happening that were not exactly right. And what happened was that some of the leaders, not necessarily the Khalifa himself, but some of the previous leaders in the government took some land or some money from people, and they made excuses that were trivial. And really, it was an unjustified takeover of the property and wealth of many, many people in the Umayyad nation at that time. And Umar ibn Abdelaziz was known for his justice, and he wanted to really reverse all of that and return all the properties that were taken unjustly back to their rightful owners. And so when they chose him as the Khalifa, he gathered the people in the masjid and he began to lecture to them. And basically he said that he has assumed the leadership, but he is not necessarily interested in it, but he will do his best to fulfill his duty with integrity and with full accountability and responsibility to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And he told people, you are to obey me as long as I am obeying Allah, and if I disobey Allah, then I no longer will expect you to obey me. These are famous words. They were said previously by Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiyallahu anhu. And then what happened is he finished his small speech and he went to his home. And when he went to his home, he was very tired because the night before, Sulaiman ibn Abdul Malik was sick and he was by his side during his illness. And when he went home, he thought he would take a nap. So he wanted to take a quick nap and then wake up energized and begin the process of governing. And one of the first things that he wanted to do was to delve into this issue of properties that were taken by force or were taken by some devious means, and wanted to return them to their rightful owners. And when he went home and laid down for a little bit to rest, his son, Abdul Malik. So the person we're talking about is Abdul Malik ibn Umar ibn Abdelaziz. Abdul Malik, the son of Umar, the son of Abdelaziz. And Abdul Malik was a young man. He was only 16, 17 at the time. And he walked in on his father and he saw him preparing to take a nap. And he said, what is it that you're planning on doing? I mean, you look like you're taking a nap. And he said to his son, he said, my dear son, I want to take a nap for a short period of time because I feel tired and I feel that I don't have the energy I need to continue on with the day. And he told his son, it's going to be just a short period of time, and inshallah, by the time the prayer for Dhuhr comes, I will get up and I will go to the masjid and I will pray Dhuhr, and then I will begin the process of looking into properties that were taken unjustly from people. The son looked at his father and he said, he didn't address him by his name. He didn't say, Ya Omar. He didn't even say, my dad. He addressed him, Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, O leader of the faithful. So he called his dad leader of the faithful. Because really he was going to address him on an issue that involved his leadership position. And he said, O leader of the faithful. Can you guarantee me that you're going to live until Dhuhr prayer? When Umar heard that, he was astounded. His son was right. What if I don't live to Dhuhr? Then I can never reverse the wrongs that were done to these people. And he recognized all of a sudden that his son had a depth of understanding of Islam, a depth of belief that he himself even did not really pay attention to at the time. And his son came and reminded him of that fact, that you may not live to Dhuhr prayer. So you might as well get up now. Forget about resting. You can do that in the evening. Right now it's time to attend to the people who were treated unjustly. Umar ibn Abdelaziz stood up quickly and he said, come near me, my son. And he hugged him. And then he kissed him right between his eyes. And then he said a beautiful saying. He said, Alhamdulillah, alladhi akhraja min sulbi man yu'inuni ala dini. I'm thankful to Allah, I'm grateful to Allah that He gave me a son from my own self who will help me be better at my faith. Subhanallah. It's truly an amazing story of a son and his father. And immediately Umar ibn Abdelaziz went to work and began looking into the matter of returning properties that were taken unjustly from people. But that wasn't the end of the story. Abdul Malik ibn Umar ibn Abdelaziz decided he did not want to stay in Damascus, which was the capital of the Umayyad period, and wanted to go to a city close to the border. And he asked his father to assign him the duty of being in charge of that city. And so his father dispatched him there. But his father was concerned because Abdul Malik at that time was young. He was only 17 years old. And so he decided to write a letter to his son. And what happened was that when he wrote the letter to the son, Umar ibn Abdelaziz had a trusted confidant, a scholar. His name was Umar ibn Muzahim. He brought Umar ibn Muzahim and he told him, I want you to take this letter to my son, but I want you, before you give him the letter, to observe his behaviors. And Umar ibn Muzahim said to Umar ibn Abdelaziz, you seem concerned about Abdul Malik. What are you concerned about? He is a good man. Yes, he's young, but he's a good man. He said, well, what I'm concerned about is that he may have a shred of arrogance in his heart. And I'm worried that as his father, I may not be seeing it because I think so highly of my son. I may not be witnessing that shred of arrogance. So I want you to go and observe. And if you see that he has a shred of arrogance, make sure you give him my letter. And in the letter, he's telling his son, and he's saying, do not be arrogant, be careful, be aware of your arrogance. Subhanallah. That's what he wrote his son. He was giving him advice. Umar ibn Muzahim did exactly as he was told. He took the letter and he traveled to the small town where Abdul Malik, the son of Umar, was the ruler. And when he entered upon him, he was so happy to see him. He of course knew him from Damascus. And he saw that he was humble and that he was a normal person. He was indeed in charge, but he had no evidence of any arrogance or of mistreating people. He did not seem to live in an expensive manner. He had regular clothes on. His house that he was living in was actually quite simple. And he began to ask Abdul Malik some questions. And he said, I want to to tell me a little bit about where do you live from? Like, how do you make your money? Omar ibn Abdelaziz is not sending you a salary, but so how do you survive? Where are you able to get food? And Abdul Malik said, I had saved some money and I bought a piece of land. And from that piece of land, I rent it to the farmers and they pay me some rent and I live off of that. And that's all I need. And that's why I haven't asked my father for any salary. He said, what do you eat? What kind of food do you eat? He wants to see, is he eating really expensive food or just regular common food? He said, some days I might eat meat. Some days I might eat lentils, which are cheaper than meat. And some days I only eat oil and vinegar. And, they just used to take the bread and they dip it in the oil and vinegar and eat it. That was the cheapest food they could find. And so he realized that he really was not eating anything expensive. And he said to himself, well, I don't know what Omar ibn Abdelaziz was concerned about. Abdul Malik's doing just fine. He's nice and humble, and he's not living outside of his means. Umar ibn Muzahim said, I continued to talk to Abdul Malik, and as I was doing that, a young man walked in. And he looked at Abdul Malik, and he said to him, and it was a little bit vague. He said to him, Aslahaka Allahu qad faragna. May Allah fix you. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala repair you. We finished. And we emptied the spot. And he left. So Umar ibn Muzahim was a little curious. What is this that they emptied? What is he talking about? So he asked Abdul Malik ibn Umar, he said, what is it that they emptied? And he said, the hammam. The hammam was an old style bathroom, and basically what it was kind of a business. It was almost like a spa. So 20, 30 people could go in, and they would be wrapped in towels, and then they would individually go in and take a bath, and then they would dry up and come out, and then they would get dry up, and then they would get dressed and go home. So it was an area, they didn't have bathtubs and showers in their houses, so they had to go to these community bathrooms, and usually there was a business owner who owned the bathroom, and about 20, 30 people would go at a time. So Abdul Malik ibn Umar told Umar ibn Muzahim, he said they emptied the bathroom, the bathroom that's in the town. And he said, why did they empty the bathroom for you? I mean, for you to go in and take a bath, they have to empty the bathroom? And Umar ibn Muzahim began to think that Abdul Malik was arrogant, that he didn't want to take a bath with other people, with the regular people like everyone else. But he wanted them to empty the bath house so that he can go in by himself, and he looked at that as a sign of arrogance. So he became concerned, and he said, how can you do that? And the owner of that bathhouse now is going to lose money because all those people were kicked out so that you can go in. Or not kicked out, but at least they waited until they finished, and they didn't allow any new people to come in, so the place would become empty for the leader of the town, Abdul Malik ibn Umar. And he told this to Abdul Malik. Abdul Malik said, Subhanallah, I didn't think of that. He said, I'm not doing it out of arrogance. He said, really, the only issue is that the reason I don't like to go in when there are other people is because sometimes the people in there don't cover themselves properly, and I don't want to see their uncovered parts of their body that I'm not supposed to see. So I feel that I should protect myself from doing that, and that's why I decided to not do that. That's the only reason, not out of arrogance. Umar ibn Muzahim looked at Abdul Malik and he said, but it looks like you're arrogant. People think that you're doing it simply because you are the leader and because your father is the Khalifa. He said, Abdul Malik said to Umar, give me some advice, what should I do? And he said to him, well, what you should do is wait till the late evening. When everyone has finished, then you can go in. You can be the last person to go in. And that way you won't have to see any of the people exposed, and you'll have the bathhouse to yourself. Abdul Malik, who was very young, felt that was a good way to deal with this problem. And he took an oath. He said, I will never go in during the day again. I will only go in during the night, no matter how cold it is. But that's not the end of the story. Umar ibn Muzahim was getting ready to go back to Damascus. Abdul Malik ibn Umar told him, please don't tell my father about this issue with the bathhouse, because I'm afraid that he will feel that I was arrogant and that he will be unhappy with me. And so Umar ibn Muzahim said, are you asking me to lie to your father? I mean, I saw it, we talked about it. Are you asking me to lie to your father? He said, no, I would never do that. Tell him I saw something I didn't like. We had a conversation and I advised Abdul Malik, and he quickly resolved the issue. And he said, I know that my father will not ask you about the details, that he would trust you and he would trust me enough not to ask about the details. And that's exactly what happened. Umar ibn Muzahim returned to Damascus, and when Umar ibn Abdelaziz asked him about Abdul Malik ibn Umar, he told him he is excellent, he is humble, he's not living outside of his means, and he is not a transgressor or an unjust leader of that town. And that I saw something I didn't like quite 100%, and we talked about it, and the issue has been resolved. And Umar ibn Abdelaziz never asked him about that detail again. Umar ibn Muzahim used to say, I never saw a father and son like the two of them. May Allah have mercy upon both of them. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم فاستغفروه يغفر لكم. والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.